Thank you, Mr. President. Let me begin by just reminding everybody that when I campaigned, one of the great observations of walking through the streets and campaigning was I just noticed how much trash there was throughout the district. And I found it shocking, and I found it to be our central talking point. Shortly after we took office, we spent 10 weeks going throughout the district, and the consensus, the number one issue was the concern about trash on the streets. As you know, we began with a pilot in our district, and many of our colleagues have emulated those pilots. And now we're very excited to say that we have a comprehensive report, a report that is quite impressive in its depth and understanding of the challenges that confront us. I want to give particular attention to the author, Mark Thomas, for his really sophisticated understanding of what are the broader policies that impact trash collection in our city and cities throughout the nation. And so I want to share with you, colleagues, a few things that we've done in our district. I'm very proud of the efforts and the collaboration that's taken place with Enrique Zaldivar's department, sanitation, and our office. We've picked up 2,500 tons of trash in the first 16 months in office. 2,500 tons of trash in the first 16 months. We've cleaned up 286 alleys. We've hosted 36 cleanups. That means we're doing a cleanup every other week in our district, and that doesn't count the other independent cleanups that have taken place. We've sent over 5,000 letters outlining our Keep It Clean campaign. We've knocked and canvassed 7,000 homes, educating them how important our campaign is. We've visited schools to read to children. In fact, I've got 3 readings this week coming up, talking to young people. We've done this in our effort to bring basic services to our community. We believe that rich or poor in this city, everybody deserves to have a clean street in front of their home. We're doing this, and we're beginning to develop this program and create a better program with a program we call SanStat. SanStat is much like ComStat. We're going to bring data and resources so that we understand with more exactness what are the challenges that confront us with trash. We want to make sure not every block in this city is the same. We want to make sure we're putting all the resources where they're needed and concentrating those resources. We have the resources, we have the trucks. We don't have the trash cans, but we have the trucks. But most importantly is we have the people power. And the people power with a vision, with a plan, with leadership. We're going to clean up this city, and we're going to make it the cleanest city in America. And we have a report today that gives us a framework for that. And so I'm very happy to turn this over to our CAO, Miguel Santana. But again, because I'm so impressed with his work, I just want to commend Mark Thomas for just a brilliant report and giving us a framework for us to move forward to become the cleanest city in America. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well done, Joe.
Good morning. Miguel Santana, CAO. I'm joined by Enrique, our General Manager of Sanitation, as well as by Mark Thomas, who came to us as a Fuse Fellow. Fuse Corps is a program that brings private sector individuals into the public sector for 1 year. And we partner with Fuse Corps to specifically look at the issue of trash in the city. What you have before you is a report that really represents a collaboration of various departments, the mayor's office, some of your council offices, that tries to take the issue of trash and looking at it much more objectively and coming up with a series of recommendations that address the problem on an ongoing basis. Much of this was inspired, of course, by the mayor, who has made a commitment to a back to basics approach to governing, and to many of you who, when you first came into office, came to us and urged us to help in developing a strategy around trash. At the very core of the recommendation is to use trash, use this approach similar to what the LAPD does with CompStat. You know, at the very foundation of policing is an idea of moving resources where the need is and establishing a basic standard of public safety, and in this case we're recommending a basic standard of cleanliness in the neighborhood, and using data as a way of determining where resources get allocated and ultimately where investments are made. I'll have Mark walk you through the presentation summarizing the report. What you'll notice here, a little different from my office, there aren't any dollar symbols here, because this is not about dollars and cents at this point, but ultimately it will be. What we're recommending today is a framework. It is not a plan. And if your council were to move forward on it, we urge you to consider our recommendation to assign much of this work in collaboration to the Board of Public Works, who will work closely with our office and sanitation and the other departments to develop a plan for your approval, which would include how would we finance it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mark.
Thank you. And so for our first recommendation, we proposed developing a proactive scout program. And one of the weaknesses in our existing system is that it responds really to a complaint-driven approach. And so we have systems that are very reactive, and they respond very well once things are reported. And so we've taken a cue from the success around our graffiti program, where 75% of that we respond to is actually proactively identified and addressed. And in previous years, there have been many scout-like programs where the CRA, where different council offices have worked with our community partners to identify quality of life conditions and report them to our systems. We're proposing to institutionalize that program, which will optimize how the city deploys, how it works with those partners to identify, report those conditions, and then provide a baseline for us on a reoccurring basis on what those needs are. Now, our second recommendation is to adopt, consistent with the vision for SandStats, a cleanliness rating index. And you have to think about this as really CompStats for cleanliness, where we'll send analysts out who actually rate the level of cleanliness of each street, each neighborhood, and provide that data for our departments and for us to allocate resources on where they need to be targeted. This is important because in an urban environment, all of our streets are constantly changing, pedestrian behavior, those things really require us to be responsive to those needs. And if you look at the chart, you see where Philadelphia has adopted a rating index, and where you see high red are areas that they identified as extreme litter. If you look a few years later, they've actually been able to use this tool, which has been adopted by Keep America Beautiful, and as an affiliate, we have access to their resources and their support to develop one here. This next slide actually shows San Francisco, which has adopted a cleanliness rating index as well. And they set a series of standards around what every street should look like. And each year they're required to report how successful they've been at achieving those standards. Now, recommendation 3 is expanding our trash can presence. We only have about 1,000 trash cans currently that the city operates, compared to other cities that have the type of pedestrian density that we have. We trail, and it's something that we're actually working with, seeing where that need is. We already have information on where the highest trash generating parts of the city are, and so we want to work with sanitation to develop a proposal for the council. Number 4 is exploring how we fund cleanups. And so you see a picture of one of the Clean Streets LA programs that's cleaned a residential area of the city. And so we have a lot of different tools at our disposal to make sure that we're optimizing how the existing resources are spent to ensure that we have a clean city. Number 5 is supporting business improvement district development. This is important because Los Angeles joins New York as really having the highest density of commercial corridors in the country. And so business improvement districts and other collaborations with our commercial parts of the city are really key to really making sure they work with us to make sure their areas are clean. And so we've been looking at models and best practices that allow us to strengthen our existing relationship with our business improvement districts, but also optimize what we provide and their value add on top of what baseline the city provides. Number 6 is launching a public engagement campaign. Once we have meaningful data to really see what the baseline of the city's cleanliness looks like, we actually want to pilot a campaign to see how public engagement and a pride campaign will actually improve the outcomes. Number 7 is strengthening our coordination of enforcement. And so when you look at all the different parts of the city's physical infrastructure, making sure that the systems are collaborative, that the departments are working in coordination will enable us to fill those gaps around enforcement and provide an accountability structure for people who violate those laws. Number 8 is really looking at a long-term solution to reducing the blight on the city's vacant land parcels. Los Angeles has roughly 22,000 vacant land parcels. About 2,000 are public, the other are private. We're ultimately responsible for eliminating blight. And so a long-term solution would be managing how we manage existing land parcels, but ultimately trying to reduce them over time. And number 9 is actually modernizing and updating our street sweeping program. This program was developed in the 1970s. The city's changed tremendously as far as its activity, its density, where people travel, how transit interacts with our streets. And we really think it's good timing now for us to re-explore how and where the city allocates that resource to ensure a clean city. And now I turn recommendation 10 back over to Miguel.
So the final recommendation is about accountability. So if you look at the very success of the LAPD CompStat, is that it's accountable ultimately to the chief. And it's the chief's responsibility to deploy resources where demand is based on data, which is the approach that we're recommending here. We're recommending that the council and the mayor direct this program to be under the oversight of the Board of Public Works. They ultimately have the ability to direct, develop, implement, and monitor this kind of program, given their oversight responsibility over all the bureaus, and ensures that there's sustainability beyond just the immediate, but on the long term. Enrique, would you like to add any comments?
Very briefly, Miguel, Enrique Zaldivar, General Manager of Sanitation. I appreciate Councilmember Cedillo's leadership as well as Councilmember Price for calling on sanitation, as did Councilmember Bonin and many of you at the start of your terms recognize the urgency of what abandoned waste and other kinds of blight causing phenomena have on the general look of the city. Ironically, this year, for the first time, sanitation has a direct responsibility and accountability for abandoned waste. We had not had it before, yet we have incredible expertise and know-how, logistics and otherwise, and the understanding of the general solid waste management spectrum. But for the first time now, through our Clean Streets program, we are answering the call for you, as well as the report on Miguel, on the broader approach to making this city the cleanest city in America. Thank you.
Very good. Now I'd like to